right, so today we're taking a deep dive into this whole employee retention credit thing. The ERC, it was supposed to be this lifeline for businesses, really hit hard by the pandemic. But it seems like the rollout has been, well, anything but smooth. I mean, we're hearing about these crazy IRS delays and confusing denials. Just a whole lot of frustration from business owners trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, it's a mess. What's really concerning is the sheer volume of claims that are just stuck. Over 1.2 million ERC claims are just sitting in processing limbo, and they're expecting another like 500,000 to come in just this year. I mean, that's thousands of businesses just waiting, unable to access funds they desperately need.
It's wild, 1.2 million. That's a staggering backlog. What's the holdup? I mean, is it just the IRS is totally overwhelmed? Yeah. Or is there something else going on, something more than meets the eye?
Well, the National Taxpayer Advocates Report kind of sheds some light on this. Basically, it points to a real lack of transparency from the IRS. They haven't provided a clear plan for processing these claims. So businesses are just left in the dark. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. You're a business owner. You're counting on this credit to keep your doors open. And you're met with silence. It's going to be incredibly stressful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's understandable that the IRS wants to crack down on fraud.
Yeah.
But it does feel like legitimate businesses are getting caught in the crossfire.
Exactly. It's a tough situation, and it begs the question, could the IRS have prevented this whole backlog with better safeguards from the start? I mean, they could have implemented stricter requirements up front, right? Like more detailed disclosures on applications, or maybe setting specific reporting thresholds for larger claims. Think about it. If a business is claiming over $1 million in ERC, maybe they need to provide more documentation. It's similar to what they did with the PPP loan forgiveness program, and that rollout has been much smoother comparatively.
Yeah, that's a good point. It does seem like a missed opportunity to streamline things and weed out those fraudulent claims early on.
Instead, we're seeing these intimidating denial letters being sent out, often without proper justification. There's actually a quote from one of the articles we have that I think really sums it up. It says, "The tactic was to say the least dirty." It just feels like they're trying to discourage appeals, even for valid claims.
Wow. Dirty. That's a strong word. It really highlights the sense of unfairness that a lot of businesses are feeling right now. So in your opinion, what could the IRS have done differently when reviewing these claims?
Well, instead of just issuing outright denials, they could have simply requested additional supporting documentation. That would give businesses the chance to clarify things or provide any missing info without facing that immediate blow of a denial.
Right, right. So for businesses that are waiting, what can they do to try and expedite their claims? We've heard about some companies that are promising to speed up the process, but that seems a little risky to me.
Yeah, I'd definitely be cautious about that. There are definitely some questionable operators out there trying to take advantage of the situation, but there are a couple of legitimate options to consider. The first is the Taxpayer Advocate Service. If you're facing undue hardship because of IRS inaction, you can file Form 911 to request their assistance. They basically act as a liaison between you and the IRS and can help move things along.
So it's like having someone on your side within the IRS itself.
Exactly. Now, the second option is a little more drastic, but it can be effective. Filing a refund lawsuit in federal court.
A lawsuit? Whoa, okay. That sounds pretty serious.
I know it sounds intimidating, but it's a legal recourse if the IRS hasn't acted on your claim within 6 months. It can be costly because of legal fees, of course, but a lawsuit often forces the IRS to prioritize your case.
So it's like taking it out of their normal bureaucratic channels and putting it right in front of a judge.
Precisely. Now, of course, we hope it doesn't come to that for anyone, but it's important to know that a denial isn't the end of the road.
That's good to hear. So practically speaking, what are the steps a business should take if they do receive a denial?
The first step is to reach out to the service provider who prepared the ERC claim. Reputable providers should be willing to help navigate the appeals process and provide necessary documentation. But there's a bit of a wrinkle here. Some of these companies have actually closed up shop since the IRS put a moratorium on processing claims back in 2023.
Oh, wow. So what happens if the original provider is unavailable?
Well, in that case, it's time to consult with a CPA or attorney who specializes in tax matters. They can help you decipher the denial and craft a compelling response. However, we've seen a lot of CPAs hesitant to get involved with ERC cases just because of the complexities. And that's where a specialized group like MPowered Incentives Group can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, our research definitely highlighted MPowered. They offer a free evaluation of your initial claim, and they'll assist with the whole response process. From what we've read, they might even take on cases where CPAs are hesitant.
That's right. They have the expertise to really dissect the IRS's arguments and build a strong case on your behalf.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. We've covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure our listeners are absorbing all this information about the ERC process. We'll be back in a moment to continue this deep dive and explore some additional strategies for success. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about what businesses can do if their ERC claim gets denied. And let's face it, getting one of those IRS denial letters in the mail can be pretty intimidating.
Oh, absolutely. It can feel like a real punch in the gut. But the important thing to remember is that their initial denial, it isn't necessarily the final word. You always have the right to appeal. And a well-crafted response can really increase your chances of success.
Okay, so walk us through it. What are the essential elements of a strong response to an ERC denial?
Well, the first step is to understand the specific reasons for the denial. The IRS, they have to provide an explanation, and it's really crucial to carefully analyze their reasoning. Sometimes, it might be a simple misunderstanding, or maybe just a missing document. Other times, they might have misapplied the rules or misinterpreted your situation.
So it's like playing detective,
Huh.
trying to figure out where the disconnect is.
Exactly. Once you've identified the core issues, then you can start building your rebuttal. And this is where having detailed documentation is absolutely essential. You want to provide clear evidence to support your claim and refute the IRS's arguments point by point.
Okay, so what kind of documentation are we talking about here?
Well, it really depends on the specifics of your case, but some common examples would be gross receipts records, to demonstrate that decline in revenue, copies of government orders that impacted your business operations, documentation of qualified wages paid to employees during the eligible periods, and even internal communications or meeting minutes, things that demonstrate how the pandemic affected your business decisions.
Got it. So being organized is critical. Businesses need to have all their ducks in a row to mount a successful challenge.
Absolutely. A disorganized or incomplete response, it's more likely to be dismissed. Remember, you're essentially building a legal case here, and that's where a company like MPowered Incentives Group can be a real game changer.
Right, Empower can help businesses put together that ironclad response. They've got a team of experts who basically eat, sleep, and breathe the ERC program right.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. They have a deep understanding of the ERC program and of the IRS's appeals process. So they can review your initial claim, identify any weaknesses, and gather all the necessary documentation to support your appeal.
So it's like having a specialized legal team in your corner,
Mm,
fighting for your right to the credit.
exactly. And they can handle all the communication with the IRS. So that takes that burden off your shoulders.
Right.
And you can focus on running your business.
And from what we've gathered, Empowered seems to have a pretty impressive success rate in challenging denials and actually getting businesses the ERC funds they deserve.
Yeah, they do. Their track record speaks for itself. They have a real knack for navigating the IRS bureaucracy and a deep understanding of the nuances of the program.
And what's especially helpful is they offer a free initial evaluation. So businesses have nothing to lose by reaching out to them for an expert opinion.
Exactly. It's a risk-free way to get some expert advice and assess your options.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the key steps businesses should take if they receive an ERC denial.
All right. First and foremost, don't panic. A denial isn't the end of the road.
Right. Second, analyze the IRS's reasoning and gather all the supporting documentation you can.
And third, consider enlisting the help of a specialized firm, like MPowered Incentives Group, to guide you through the appeals process.
Okay, that seems like a pretty straightforward plan. But I imagine it can still feel daunting for business owners who are already stressed and dealing with so much uncertainty.
Oh, for sure. That's why having a trusted partner like MPowered can make such a difference. They can provide real peace of mind knowing that experts are handling your case and fighting for your interests.
Well, this has been incredibly helpful. I think this is a good place to wrap up our discussion on responding to denials. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the ERC. So let's take a quick pause to gather our thoughts, and then we'll come back with some final takeaways and insights for our listeners. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Employee Retention Credit. We've really dug into the IRS's handling of this program, and it's been, eye-opening to say the least.
Yeah, it really has. It's just disappointing to see so many legitimate claims getting caught up in the IRS's efforts to combat fraud.
It almost feels like they overcorrected, like they went
Yeah.
too far in one direction. It ended up penalizing businesses that actually do qualify for this relief.
I think that's a great way to put it. While the focus on fraud is understandable, it shouldn't come at the expense of those businesses that desperately need these funds. I mean, these are businesses that are trying to recover from the pandemic's impact.
Exactly. So as we wrap things up here, what are the key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind when navigating this whole ERC process?
Well, I think first and foremost, awareness is key. The ERC is a valuable program, there's no doubt about that. But the process has been far from perfect. Businesses really need to be informed about the potential challenges and be prepared to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to these complex tax matters.
Exactly. And another thing to keep in mind, documentation is crucial. Meticulous record keeping is absolutely essential for any business considering an ERC claim.
So what kind of records are we talking about specifically?
We'll keep detailed records of everything related to your claim. Things like revenue fluctuations, showing that decline, government orders that affected your operations, qualified wages paid to employees, and any internal communications that demonstrate the pandemic's impact on your business decisions.
Okay, so it sounds like having a strong paper trail can make or break your chances of success, especially if you need to challenge a denial or respond to IRS inquiries.
Precisely. Think of it like building a fortress around your claim. The more solid your documentation, the stronger your defense will be. And finally, don't be afraid to seek expert help. Navigating this ERC maze, it can be incredibly overwhelming, especially if you're dealing with the denial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Companies like MPowered Incentives Group, they have the specialized knowledge and experience to guide you through the process and to fight for your rights.
Right, it's like having a trusted guide to help you navigate this complex and often confusing terrain.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. If the IRS was so concerned about fraud, why not implement more robust safeguards from the beginning? Why not have those reporting thresholds and disclosure requirements in place from day one? Why wait until the system is overwhelmed with claims, many of them legitimate, to start taking more aggressive action?
That's a great question. And it makes you wonder if their approach was more reactive than proactive. Could they have done more to support businesses in need, while also preventing fraud?
It definitely raises some important questions about their priorities.
Well said. We hope this deep dive has been informative, and more importantly, empowering for our listeners. Remember, you're not alone in this. There are resources available to help you navigate the complexities of the ERC, and to get the relief you deserve. Don't give up.
Absolutely. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep fighting for what's right. Until next time.